Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is the final session on the final day. Thank you for bearing with us. The idea in this session is to have a roundtable discussion focused on some of the key themes that we have explored over the course of the last 3 days. And the idea is to have representation up here from representatives of national authorities. And I will introduce all of my fellow roundtablers in a second, but of course we will also have a regional perspective as well through Ikram Attar. So obviously everybody up here has already presented over the course of the last few days, but just by way of introduction again, I am joined by Dr. Youssef Bokbat from Morocco. He's with the National Institute of Sciences of Archaeology and Heritage, based in Rabat. I'm also joined by Mr. Jihad Yassin, who is the Director General of Excavation and Museums in the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities in Palestine. And we also have Mohammed Atoum from the Department of Antiquities in Jordan. And finally, we also have, of course, Dr. Zaki Aslan from the Director of Ikram Attar, based here in Sharjah. So before we get started, I did want to quickly remind everybody on some of the themes that we have explored over the last 3 days. And as I mentioned, the idea is, following on from these themes, I have some questions that I would like to ask, and I will ask each of you in turn to ask a question and maybe go down, and you can each give your perspectives, your national perspectives. And again, Zaki will be providing more of the regional perspective. So just to recap, the themes that we have really explored over the last 3 days include digital documentation as a preparedness and preventative tool, digital documentation as in the form of post-disaster recovery, the development of new documentation technologies, capacity building in the region, and finally the donor perspectives, the perspectives of the funders that are providing some funds, key funds here in the region. So to get us started, Dr. Youssef, perhaps you can start. You in your presentation talked a lot about threats that our heritage is facing in your country, particularly, and a lack of certain areas to address that. And you highlighted particularly, I think, a lack of legal recourse and protection for a lot of these sites. But can you talk a little bit more about, outside of that, or more on that, what are the highest levels of threats to heritage in your country that you're seeing currently?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Donc, les différents dangers en fait, qu'encourt le patrimoine archéologique du Maroc sont multiples. Donc, je peux énumérer quelques-uns. Donc, un des premiers facteurs de dégradation disons, du patrimoine archéologique, il est dû donc, aux chercheurs de trésors. Il y a des bandes criminelles qui cherchent des trésors dans les sites archéologiques historiques, soit médiévaux, soit d'époque romaine ou phénicienne, mais aussi toutes les nécropoles, donc cimetières donc, préhistoriques et protohistoriques. Donc on a à peu près un inventaire de plus de 30 000 tombes préhistoriques, et sur ces 30 000, il y a à peu près 80% de tombes qui ont été complètement violées par les chercheurs de trésors. Ces bandes de criminels croient qu'en fouillant donc, ces tombes, ils vont trouver des objets de valeur qu'ils vont commercialiser. Ce qui fait qu'ils ont causé des dégradations vraiment terribles au site archéologique. Et nous, archéologues, quand on arrive sur le terrain, on trouve donc que la majorité de la documentation a été complètement détruite par ces chercheurs de trésors. Le deuxième point aussi intéressant qui peut être en relation avec le premier, c'est le trafic illicite des objets archéologiques. Donc, on a un grave problème justement de formation des douaniers donc ceux qui contrôlent les accès maritimes, aériens et terrestres donc, de la frontière marocaine. Donc ces douaniers n'ont jamais acquis donc, de formation sur les objets d'art, donc de valeur sur les objets archéologiques. Et donc du coup, ils ne font pas la différence entre objet archéologique et objet artisanal. Donc à travers ça, donc, à travers les douanes, donc les frontières, il y a beaucoup d'objets archéologiques de valeur qui sortent du Maroc vers l'étranger, qu'on retrouve après dans les musées internationaux, soit dans des ventes carrément aux enchères, soit à Londres, soit à Paris. Et donc, quand ces ventes sont déclarées, à ce moment-là, des fois, l'État marocain fait objection et peut récupérer donc, ces objets. Le troisième facteur majeur de cause du destruction du patrimoine, c'est dû à la carence donc, législative. Donc, la loi marocaine n'impose pas aux aménageurs donc, une étude d'impact archéologique. Ce qui fait quand il y a des grands projets, par exemple les aéroports, le port, les autoroutes, les chemins de fer, les stations balnéaires, il n'y a aucune étude d'impact archéologique, ce qui fait que les entreprises chargées de concrétiser donc, ces projets ne tiennent pas compte des vestiges archéologiques. Et donc on a, disons, une déperdition totale donc, de ces sites. Je vous donne un exemple. Donc, il y a même pas 15 jours, donc, le Maroc a inauguré le premier train grande vitesse TGV d'Afrique entre Tanger et Casa. Et ben, ce tracé de TGV n'a jamais été précédé par une étude d'impact archéologique. Donc, ce qui fait, on sait qu'il doit y avoir au moins des milliers de sites archéologiques qui ont été complètement bousillés. Voilà. Merci.
Thank you, Dr. Bokbot. Mr. Yassin, would you mind providing some perspective for us on the biggest threats that are facing heritage in Palestine, please?
مساء الخير. يعني ممكن وضع فلسطين بيختلف شوي عن باقي الدول العربية. من أهم التهديدات اللي بتواجه فلسطين واللي واجهتها عبر العصور الماضية، التهديد الأول هو الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وما قام به من تدمير لمئات القرى التقليدية في فلسطين عام 48، ما يقوم به من تقسيم مكاني وزماني للمقدسات الفلسطينية كما يقوم به حاليا في القدس وفي الخليل الحرم الإبراهيمي، ما يقوم به من فرض رواية صهيونية إسرائيلية على التراث الفلسطيني وإعادة كتابة تاريخ فلسطين بما ينسجم مع أطماع الاحتلال الصهيوني، ما يقوم به من تشجيع عملية سرقة ونهب مواقع التراث الثقافي الفلسطيني والآثار الفلسطيني، خاصة في المناطق الخاضعة للسلطة الفلسطينية، يسمح لعشرات الأشخاص بالتنقيب عن الآثار في المواقع الخاضعة لسيطرتنا، يسمح بالاتجار بالآثار، ولكن يمنع ذلك في الأراضي المحتلة عام 48، حيث تقدر عدد اللقى الأثرية التي تم نقلها من فلسطين إلى خارج فلسطين وإلى الاحتلال الإسرائيلي أكثر من 3 مليون قطعة أثرية تم نقلها وتم استخراجها بفعل التنقيبات الغير شرعية من خلال لصوص الآثار، لولا وجود الوسيط الإسرائيلي، لولا وجود السيطرة الإسرائيلية على الحدود الفلسطينية والمطارات التي تسهل هذه العملية وتشجعها. كذلك في عملية كتابة التاريخ الفلسطيني في البدايات كان التركيز على مراحل معينة، يعتقدوا أن هناك علاقة ما بين الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وما بين التاريخ الفلسطيني، وإهمال كافة المراحل اللاحقة. أذكر عندما كنت طالبا أن التركيز كان بشكل أساسي على العصر الحديدي لما يربطونه بالقبائل العبرية التي هاجرت إلى فلسطين من مصر، وكانت تهمل كافة المراحل اللاحقة كالفترة البيزنطية كالفترة الكلاسيكية والإسلامية، حتى في بعض الأحيان كانت تجرف بالجرافات لحين الوصول إلى الطبقات التي يهتمون بالبحث عنها. حرمان الفلسطينيين لفترة طويلة من الزمن من دراسة تاريخهم، من كتابة تاريخهم من مصادره الأولية. هذه كانت أحد الإشكاليات الكبيرة. الإشكاليات الأخرى هي مثلا محدود الزحف العمراني الذي يهدد مواقع التراث الثقافي، خاصة أن المناطق المسموح بها للفلسطينيين بالبناء مع الزيادة السكانية الضخمة والهائلة محدودة جدا. إذا ما أخذنا غزة كحالة ممكن تعتبر أكبر كثافة سكانية في العالم، مساحة صغيرة يعيش بها حوالي 1.5 مليون أو أكثر فلسطيني، مما أدى إلى يعني تدمير العديد من المواقع الأثرية تحت حجة الزحف العمراني وبأهمية البناء. هناك أيضا العوامل الطبيعية التي تهدد بعض المواقع التراث الثقافي. كذلك عندما استلمت وزارة السياحة والآثار بعد اتفاقية أوسلو لصلاحياتها على الأراضي الفلسطينية، كان هناك تقسيم للأراضي المحتلة عام 67 إلى مناطق ألف ومناطق باء ومناطق سي أو جيم. في مناطق ألف وباء، وهي مناطق خاضعة للسيطرة الأمنية الفلسطينية، مناطق سي خاضعة للسيطرة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. نسبة المواقع الأثرية، إذا علمنا أن عدد المواقع الأثرية في الأراضي المحتلة عام 67 حوالي 7000 موقع أثري، 55,000 مبنى تاريخي، ما نسبته 60% ما زال تحت الاحتلال، ما يعني أن الأجهزة الأمنية لا تستطيع الوصول إلى تلك المناطق لحمايتها. وزارة السياحة والآثار تجد صعوبة كبيرة في حماية تلك المواقع، لا يسمح بالعمل فيها من إجراء تنقيبات أو أعمال ترميم. بالإضافة إلى العامل الآخر قد يكون نقص الإمكانيات المادية واللوجستية. هناك آلاف المواقع بحاجة إلى ترميم، بحاجة إلى إعادة كتابة التاريخ الفلسطيني بطريقة علمية بأيدي فلسطينية. يعني بتوقع بدأ بالتعاون ما بين الكثير من المؤسسات المحلية والدولية بإعادة الاعتبار إلى التراث الفلسطيني وتشكيل مدرسة آثار فلسطينية بالتعاون مع جامعات دولية، مؤسسات عربية ودولية، لإعادة كتابة التاريخ الفلسطيني بأيدي فلسطينية، لإجراء عشرات مشاريع التنقيب المشتركة ما بين جامعات فلسطينية ودولية وما بين وزارة السياحة وجامعات دولية، كذلك إجراء أعمال ترميم للعديد من المواقع الأثرية في فلسطين. لكن ما زال العبء كبير، والمواقع التي بحاجة إلى حفاظ وخطط حفاظ كبيرة. القانون كان كذلك أحد العوائق أمام الحفاظ على التراث الثقافي. عددنا قانون جديد، نأمل أن نتمكن من هذا القانون من حماية قانونية للمواقع الأثرية، لكن مطلوب إعداد سجل وطني بشكل عاجل حتى نتمكن بطريقة قانونية من حفاظ على تراثنا ومواقعنا الأثرية.
Thank you very much. Mohammed, would you like to give us a perspective from Jordan?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. My lecture it was about disturbance, but the threat is more dangerous. As example, I recorded agricultural disturbance as disturbance, and the agricultural disturbance contributed to preserve some sites, but that it was in the past, because they used just the upper layer of soil. Now they're using a machine to reclaim the land. They're using a machine. How is it? By clearance the land. This is dangerous to make clearance for the land. He will remove. They're removing anything. So it's the threats now it's more than dangerous, more than disturbance. Another threat in Jordan, domestic, as a cause of reuse and occupation. Yeah, we're suffering with these things in many sites in Jordan. They got a permit to build or to construct some buildings, commercial or housing. And this permit, because he will get the permit anyway. Because why? Because he owns this land. It's private property. And if you want to own it, you have to pay instead of that, and there is no accessibility of that. Yeah, it needs fund, but we have another challenge. We have a huge number of sites in Jordan. Sometimes we cannot control in it, and we have a small. Instead of that, we have a small team. Another disturbance, and this is the problem for the whole community. It's the looting. The looting is the big threat, and it's recorded as a big disturbance also. This conference improving our ability and give us a knowledge how to document document heritage sites, but we need more courses or training courses, and also we need to share this information with our colleague in Department of Antiquities and anywhere in Jordan, in Palestine, in Iraq. So, and we need also fund to make a maintenance for the archaeological site which we record it through database Emina or other database, and I think it's necessary to protect these sites, yeah, and to make some conservation and preservation to this site, yeah. What's value of the documentation? Just store it, keep it? No, it's like I think it's the first step for maintenance. Final things, we should involve the community. But how we involve the community? We should training the graduating students, yeah, to give them work, and we should train some workmen to give them a knowledge, and after a project they can feed themselves. Without, if he don't feel there is no benefit from this project, I think he will leave it. So to involve the community, we should let them feel that they will have a benefit later. And we have also another challenge. We in our centers in Jordan, or government or private center, we should work together, because now they are working separately. Every center has a plan. We should have one plan to control on these sites and to prevent the threats or dangerous. Yeah, we should have one plan.
Thank you. Zeki, do you have anything to add from the regional perspective on the biggest threats to heritage we're seeing? I mean, a lot of them have been listed now, but
yeah,
anything that...
It's true. But perhaps I would like to highlight a few which were, in a way, very apparent in the presentations that we saw. In many cases, you have seen, and I think Rand also in his presentation, looking at the World Heritage sites in particular, there is the issue of development and urban development and encroachment and maybe agricultural development. So all, when you go to World Heritage Committees, this is the main aspect that is discussed. That's why they talk about impact assessment, they talk about even management with whatever the word means, and they talk about more recently about risk management, etc., including, I mean, that development is part of. But talking about risks per se, I think the region, as you also, has been suffering from conflicts, and these conflicts caused more looting of objects, more theft, and more illicit trade, perhaps, of objects being looted or taken from museums. So this issue of illicit trafficking has become really a major issue in more recent years. Destruction, as you saw in many of the cases, Aleppo, I can't remember now the examples we saw, but destruction, intentional destruction that is caused by conflict is also a major issue, and loss of several items being immovable or movable objects, including manuscripts, not only objects in museums, but also documentary heritage in libraries and places like that. So I think these are major issues that we are, if you're asking me to highlight what are the main risks, I would say these are the main risks for the time, for now. And I think the issue, I mean, I'm not talking about the risks per se, but there is a risk of what we call disassociation, because we don't have enough documentation, and here comes the importance of programs like EMINA and every organization that is working in the field of documentation, because if you have these objects without any record, without any evidence or provenance or data on these objects, we will lose them forever. So I think these are the main aspects I can think about. Now, if you look at our brochure, if I talk about 10 years ago, the things was different. But I'm talking about nowadays, if we want to rate the risks, these are the risks. If we talk about like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we were talking also about issues of normal situation, like tourism, the effect of tourism on sites, and the effect, there are many other issues that we talked about previously. But I think now these are the main issues.
Thank you, Zaki. Dr. Bokbot, coming back to Morocco, if we look at having described the threats, what are the key constraints that the national agencies in your country are facing? You had mentioned a lack of legislation for protection of heritage, but are there others that you wish to highlight, whether they're technical or financial in nature?
Donc, en fait, disons la direction du patrimoine culturel national et les directions régionales qui gèrent justement le patrimoine culturel marocain, ils sont confrontés à plusieurs contraintes. Donc, la première contrainte, c'est de ressources humaines. Donc, il y a très peu de techniciens formés. Disons, le seul institut qui forme justement les cadres qui travaillent dans le patrimoine, c'est mon institut, l'Institut national du patrimoine, de l'archéologie et du patrimoine. Donc, on forme une vingtaine de techniciens chaque année. Et comme vous savez, donc, le Maroc, c'est un territoire immense. Et donc, c'est 20 techniciens par année. Donc, ils ne couvrent pas toutes les régions. Et en plus de ça, donc, la majorité des techniciens, finalement, ils préfèrent travailler dans les grandes villes. Ce qui fait qu'on a une concentration donc de ces techniciens dans le nord du Maroc. Et par contre, les parties du sud, ils sont complètement négligés. Il y a très peu de ressources humaines. Donc, le deuxième point, c'est les financements. Comme vous le savez, donc, le patrimoine, il est géré par le ministère de la Culture. Et le ministère de la Culture, il dispose d'un budget, mais vraiment très réduit. Donc c'est même pas 0,5% donc du PIB national. Donc avec ce budget, donc il n'est pas réservé uniquement au patrimoine, il est réservé aux livres, aux activités culturelles. Et donc ce qui fait la partie réservée au patrimoine, c'est une partie très très infime. Ce qui fait donc qui ne permet pas justement de gérer ni de restaurer. Ce qui fait donc, ces agences nationales et régionales, ils font en fait un travail de pompier. Quand il y a urgence, ils interviennent. Quand il n'y a pas urgence, ils n'interviennent pas. Et donc ça c'est très très grave. Il y a aussi un grand problème de coordination entre les ministères. Comme vous le savez, le patrimoine, il n'est pas géré uniquement par le ministère de la Culture, parce qu'il y a d'autres ministères qui sont intervenants. Par exemple, il y a tout ce qui est patrimoine défensif, c'est le ministère de la Défense qui le gère. Tout le patrimoine religieux, c'est le ministère des Affaires islamiques et des Habous qui le gère. Donc tout ce qui est Kasbah, fortification, c'est le ministère de l'Habitat. Et donc il n'y a pas de coordination entre les différentes interventions. Donc cette absence de coordination nous aboutit à une perdition de ce patrimoine. Donc les financements pour faire réaliser les inventaires, c'est indispensable, comme a dit mon ami Zaki. Donc l'inventaire, c'est indispensable. D'abord pour connaître, et comme a dit mon collègue jordanien, l'inventaire, c'est indispensable pour connaître au moins ce qu'on a. Donc ça n'évite pas qu'il n'y ait pas de perdition, mais au moins connaître ce qu'on a. Donc cet inventaire, donc le taux d'inventorisation du patrimoine marocain ne dépasse pas 15%. Faute de ressources humaines, faute de moyens. Et donc en fait, le seul inventaire dont on dispose, c'est grâce, non pas aux services administratifs du Maroc, mais grâce au programme de recherche archéologique. Comme vous savez, donc, le Maroc, c'est un pays très ouvert à la coopération internationale. Donc mon institut, on gère une trentaine de programmes de coopération avec différents pays, donc européens, anglo-saxons, essentiellement européens et américains. Et donc à travers ces programmes, on arrive à effectuer des inventaires précis de régions précises. Mais ça ne couvre pas bien sûr tout le territoire marocain. Ces inventaires réalisés dans le cadre des programmes de recherche constituent à peu près, on va dire, 20 à 25% du territoire national. Donc l'urgence, c'est d'arriver à effectuer cet inventaire national pour connaître au moins le potentiel qu'on a. Voilà.
Thank you. Mr. Yassin, when you were talking about the threats in Palestine, you had mentioned the lack of a national register there as well. Are there any other key constraints that your agency faces that you would like to highlight here today?
يعني عندما تسلمنا الصلاحيات لم نتسلم أي ريكورد للمواقع الأثرية الموجودة في فلسطين، فقط اسم الموقع والإحداثيات. لم يكن هناك أي ريكورد باستثناء المساحات الأثرية السابقة. تم العمل بشكل فوري على إعداد قاعدة بيانات خاصة بالمواقع الأثرية، وتم الانتهاء منها بشكل أولي مبنية على الArcGIS إلى آخره. لكن هذا البرنامج كان يواجه صعوبة في عدد الفنيين القادرين على التعامل مع هذا البرنامج. من خلال مشروع إيمينا تم تدريب حوالي 20 موظف من وزارة السياحة والآثار والوزارات المعنية على برنامج لبناء قاعدة بيانات حديثة وسهل التعامل معها. بتوقع أنه نأمل في السنوات القادمة أن يتم تطوير هذا البرنامج بما يخدم إنشاء قاعدة بيانات خاصة في فلسطين في المواقع الأثرية. أما فيما يتعلق بالمباني التاريخية هناك إشكالية لأن هذه المواقع لم تكن محمية بالقانون السابق. هناك حوالي 55,000 مبنى تاريخي بحاجة إلى إعداد سجل وطني لها بشكل عاجل. هناك جهود متفرقة على توثيق تلك المباني من خلال الوزارة، الجامعات، المؤسسات الأهلية وشبه الحكومية العاملة في هذا المجال، لكن بحاجة إلى تجميع كل هذه البيانات في سجل وطني واحد يشمل المواقع الأثرية، يشمل المباني التاريخية، حيث بالقانون الحديث أصبحت كلها تندرج تحت مصطلح التراث. في السابق كان آثار ومباني تاريخية. مطلوب قانونيا من الفلسطينيين بالاستناد للقانون الجديد إعداد هذا السجل خلال سنة أو سنتين حتى نتمكن من حماية هذا التراث الفلسطيني. مطلوب توحيد جهود الجميع، وبالنسبة للدول المانحة كذلك مطلوب أن تتجه حسب الأولويات الفلسطينية للحفاظ على التراث الثقافي الفلسطيني، والتعاون ما بين الجميع في هذا المجال. في بلدة السموع هناك أكثر من مشروع تنفذ في تلك البلدة من خلال مركز رواق، صندوق تطوير البلديات، وأليكس ومشروع أليكس، وبالإضافة إلى ما تقوم به البلدية. حاليا نتأمل أن نتمكن في العام القادم من توحيد تلك الجهود جميعا، وأن نوضعها في إطار واحد لإعداد سجل وطني فلسطيني يخدم كافة الباحثين، يساعد في حماية التراث الثقافي الفلسطيني، ويساعد الوزارة وكافة الجهات الرسمية على التخطيط الاستراتيجي للمستقبل لحماية هذا الموروث وإدارته بشكل فعال وسليم.
Thank you. Mr. Atum, would you like to provide a Jordanian perspective?
Okay. The authority of archaeological site in Jordan, it's for the Department of Antiquities of Jordan. It manages all archaeological sites in Jordan through the directorate. But it's just they manage the archaeological site, but the heritage, which the heritage sites is belong to the Ministry of Tourism. We have a law for the archaeological sites and for the archaeology, but for the heritage, the Ministry of Tourism, they have an instruction or a regulation, whatever they called, and sometimes it's not useful, because when anybody want to remove the heritage house, if he own it, he can remove it, because they will not judge him, or there is no law to control on these heritage sites. That's for the heritage. And we have many projects in Jordan now, collaborate with the foreign foundations to training training the employees and the technician, and we still contact with them, but it's not enough, because we have huge sites and we need to train more people. Next year, we will have a training center in Jarash, supported by Italian and European. You know about that, Dr. Aslan, you know about that. And Dr. Aslan in touch with us, and he helped us to training the technician, especially for mosaic. And we need also to train more people, because we lose a lot of stuff, especially for stone mason and technician, and we need them in sites to deal with the emergency cases, in if any monumental collapse or something like that, to support this monument. And we should give people from local community chance to train them, to give them knowledge, maybe we will hire them through a project in Day system. We have many projects supported by foreign or supported by government of Jordan, and these projects funded by the government, and funded by some of it from other foundations like USAID, and they hire the workmen from local community, and we need to train them before they work in antiquity. They're working on their system, means when the project finish, there's no work for them. So it's nice to have some people with experience, especially in maintenance project. So we still need more funds, more projects in Jordan, especially in some archaeological sites like Jamal, like Jadara, Qais, like Jarash, yeah, like also like Philadelphia, Amman. Yeah, that's it.
All right. The question was about the constraints, right? So I mentioned the risks. Now, why we are not being able to address these risks? So practically, I think there are two aspects to that. One is related to the skills, as the colleagues mentioned, and the capacities that we have. And I think it is really about knowledge. It's really about knowledge about what are the best practices and the standards of how to do things. And so when we talk about capacities, we talk about knowledge. And that's why actually our slogan here for the center is the knowledge is the future of our heritage. So actually how we could enhance this knowledge and promote good practice in the various fields of conservation. So this is one that is related to capacities of professionals. However, I think the bigger issue is more related to the legal and institutional frameworks. The institutional frameworks that we have in the region, we had a meeting, by the way, about like four weeks ago here to discuss the legal and institutional frameworks, because these people that we talk about, you know, I mean, the colleagues that work and they have the hands-on knowledge to do the work are actually work within institutions that have some major issues that need to be addressed. So we had a meeting to address all these issues related to institutional framework, how we could make them more effective, how we also influence the legislation which needs to be updated in many of these countries, and how we make it more effective in its implementation. So all the legislations in the region, for example, are quite outdated. I mean, if you think about any country, now many countries have updated their legislation, but for example, in Lebanon, they still have the legislation of 1933, which was since the French mandate. Or in Jordan, although they updated their legislation, it was very much based on the British legislation, although there were many updates on. So the approach to how you deal with the legal aspect and how you frame that in an institutional framework is really a major constraint at the moment, and we're trying to work with the institutions now to work on these various fields that would include. I could categorize them in three components. One is related to international cooperation. International cooperation meaning, in many ways, the conventions, for example, the conventions that should enhance international cooperation among, you know, the nations of the world, being it the Lehigh Convention, the Hague Convention on during conflicts, which we are now facing, or being it the World Heritage Convention. I have no problem with, because it's the most the most known and the most promoted. But I think there are many other conventions that are not being really worked on well to have this international and regional cooperation effective. So, for example, the illicit trafficking, the one of 1970, these are all UNESCO conventions, not to mention the other conventions like UNIDROIT, which had different perception about its implementation. So on one level, there is this aspect of international cooperation, which is in a way regularized through the international conventions. So there is a lack of understanding. We talked about maritime heritage, I think, yesterday. I can't see Colin here. But for example, that convention has not been ratified by many, many countries. I think it's the least ratified convention to enhance this international, or even on our level, the regional cooperation to control and protect cultural heritage on the coasts, the coastlines that were presented to you yesterday. So there is, on one hand, this aspect. On the other, when we talk about capacity building is always looked at as only professionals. But we provided for the World Heritage Committee a framework for what we call the global capacity building strategy, where we had a kind of a paradigm shift to look at capacity building in a different way. It's not really simply training, because training, even short courses, sometimes cannot be efficient enough. So how you do training and how you do capacity building is really important. And I will get back to that. But more importantly is that we address other audiences. We address audiences, and when we talk about institutional capacities, we talk about policies, so we have to reach policymakers. We have also to look at, but of course that's not really training, it's more how to raise, in a way, the knowledge about, issues at stake to policymakers. So on one hand, there is that other category. On the other, there are the communities that we have been always talking about, like participation of community engagement. In every meeting we had, this can become, the main aspect, but we never addressed it effectively as how we deal with it. So I think through projects, and I think my colleagues who presented Sudan today, we are starting to see how we can effectively addressing these issues on the ground in the case of museums, for example. How the museums can be truly community-owned and community-related. So that's the second category on capacity building. And then, of course, when we talk about protection, we need to talk about legislation. I mentioned updating of the legislation. There are new approaches to legislative frameworks, because our legislative frameworks are not what we call, are not really helping in this, for example, what we try to call for. They're not participatory oriented. There are no incentives. Sometimes we talk about punishments more than incentives to encourage the protection. And sometimes we lack within even these documents the preventive conservation approaches that we have been promoted for many years now. How we could prevent instead of like addressing the issues after, certain incident that takes place. And of course, there is the issue of integration, also integrated approach, which we tried to promote in the beginning of 2000, more or less, at ICROM, especially when we talk about historic cities, but also archaeological sites. When we talk about preventive archaeology, yesterday, our colleague was talking about preventive archaeology, how we actually have this reflected in this legislation, how we can make it effective. So we talk about intersectorial collaboration beyond the regional collaboration within the country itself, how we can coordinate and work intersectorally with the different sectors of development, private development, other agencies that are involved, like municipalities, for example, as cultural heritage institutions, how we work together. I mean, there is no system, and that's why I asked you this question yesterday about how this is actually being taking place in Morocco. So these legislation should be integrated, participatory, preventive, and incentive. The incentives are really important in any conservation planning process. So I think these are the constraints, but of course we are trying to address them within the work that we have been doing to address, as I mentioned again, other audiences, professionals, policymakers, communities, and also the other sectors, like, for example, how we train lawyers, people from the customs, people from the police, etc.
Thank you, Zeki. That was really good. And I particularly like your thoughts and ideas about training and how it needs to be more encompassing, more cross-sectoral. And our experience at Global Heritage Fund, at a lot of the projects that we work at, the experts aren't necessarily always the ones that need to be trained. It's a lot of the practitioners or the stakeholders at the local level, whether they're community members or just people who are skilled but uneducated. And there's a need for that kind of capacity building and training to exist as well. So thank you.
Maybe I should just refer to your last statement. In fact, now these professionals will have to have more skills than what we used to have like 20 or 30 years ago. The professionals should be more able not only to restore, but also to communicate, to manage, to talk to other disciplines. So there are different sets of skills and a different type of profile of these professionals to address all these issues.
Thank you. Yes. So this session is slated to go for an hour, and we do want to open it up to the floor for some questions for the roundtable here. I did want to ask just one final question before we do that. And I think really, I had a few more other questions, but this is the one that I'm really keen to ask. And we did have the opportunity yesterday to hear from the donors and the donor perspective on what are the types of projects that the donors are funding in the region and globally. And given what you've described in your countries as far as threats and constraints, can you please share with us what types of projects and issues you would like to see funding for in your countries? Dr. Bokbak, would you start us off for Morocco, please?
Donc, disons, je vais vous parler, mais à titre de chercheur donc, qui travaille sur le terrain. Moi, je dirige plusieurs programmes de recherche archéologique donc, au Maroc. Donc, j'ai un programme donc, de prospection et de fouilles archéologiques dans la vallée du Dra avec l'université de Leicester. Et un autre programme dans la même zone à peu près avec l'université de East Anglia, en Norwich. Et un troisième programme avec l'université de Complutense en Espagne. Donc, disons, notre souhait par rapport justement aux organismes financiers, c'est de pouvoir donc s'impliquer dans ces opérations de recherche fondamentale. Donc, c'est la priorité d'abord, parce qu'il nous faut d'abord connaître notre potentiel archéologique. Nous, donc c'est un pays, disons, en voie de développement, mais donc la culture, il est un petit peu, c'est pas une priorité, et donc on a besoin de suffisamment de financement pour faire des missions de terrain. D'abord pour localiser les sites. Comme vous savez, donc la prospection archéologique, jusqu'à maintenant, on n'a pas couvert même pas la moitié du Maroc. Et donc l'autre moitié, on ne sait pas quel potentiel il dispose. Donc on a vraiment besoin de financement dans le cadre de recherche fondamentale, avant d'aborder le problème de restauration et de mise en valeur donc des sites archéologiques. Toujours dans le cadre des financements, il faudra financer la formation professionnelle ou la formation continue, donc des agents travaillant sur place. C'est indispensable. Il y a maintenant des moyens technologiques utilisés pour l'inventaire et pour les prospections, dont les techniciens qui ont été formés il y a 20 ans, il y a 10 ans, ils sont en décalage par rapport à la technologie. Donc il faut que ces bailleurs de fonds financent donc ces stages de formation donc des techniciens locaux pour qu'on puisse, parce que ces techniciens locaux, c'est eux qui sont sur place tout le temps. Donc moi je suis sur Rabat, je ne peux pas aussi être sur place. Donc il faut former donc, les gens locaux, des équipes locales avec des financements, donc des appuis locaux financiers par les organismes financiers, pour que les équipes locales puissent faire le travail dans un cadre autonome. Et là, donc, c'est pas sorcier. Il faut injecter de l'argent dans les techniques et dans la formation.
Thank you.
يعني اسمح لي قبل أن أجيب على هذا السؤال أتحدث عن السؤال السابق. أنا أعتقد أن أهم أداة للحفاظ على تراثنا الثقافي في معظم البلدان العربية هو الوعي الشعبي بأهمية هذا التراث. وهو يعني خاصة أنه إحنا مناطق نزاع وصراع. في حال الصراع لا القوانين ولا الأجهزة الأمنية تستطيع حماية التراث الثقافي. ما الشعب أو المواطن إذا ما كان لديه وعي بأهمية تراثه كجزء من الهوية الوطنية يتمكن من الحفاظ على التراث. وشاهدنا نماذج عديدة من الوعي الشعبي. مثلا في مصر الشعب هو الذي حمى المتحف الوطني من الدمار أثناء الأحداث. في ظل غياب وعي شعبي لا يمكن الحفاظ على تراثنا الثقافي. ونقطة أخرى، إدراج التراث الثقافي ضمن خطط التنمية الاقتصادية. يجب أن كذلك نستفيد من التراث الثقافي اقتصاديا. إذا ما استفاد المجتمع المحلي من التراث من النواحي الاقتصادية يمكن أن يساعد في حماية هذا التراث. في عندنا نموذج بتير أدرجت على التراث العالمي، بلدة لم يكن يسمع بها أحد، بعد إدراجها على التراث الثقافي العالمي أصبحت تزار بعشرات، بل يعني يصل عدد السياحة إلى تلك القرية يعني بتوقع أكثر من 100,000 سائح سنويا. انتقل هذا العدد إلى 100,000 من 0 إلى 100,000 بعد إدراجها على لائحة التراث العالمي. وهذا خلق منفعة كبيرة للمجتمع المحلي في تلك المنطقة، وأصبح المواطنون إلى حد كبير يدافعوا عن تراثهم في تلك المنطقة ويسعون إلى جلب مشاريع عديدة لتطوير التراث الثقافي في تلك المنطقة، بالرغم من التحديات الكبيرة والمضايقات التي يتعرض لها المواطن، خاصة أن كل المواقع الأثرية إن لم يكن معظمها ملكيات خاصة، وهذه أحد الإشكاليات في الحفاظ على التراث الثقافي. أما فيما يتعلق بالمشاريع، في معظم الحكومات العربية أعتقد أن التراث لا يأتي على رأس أولويات الحكومات العربية. عندنا في فلسطين الصحة، التعليم تأخذ أولويات أعلى من التراث. الموازنات المخصصة بشكل رسمي للتراث الثقافي تكاد تكون قليلة جدا. معظم المشاريع تمول من خلال الدول المانحة، سواء كانت أوروبية، أمريكية، يابانية أو عربية. حديثا أصبح يعني تدخل في موازنة الحكومة موازنة لأول مرة قبل عامين أدخلت الحكومة موازنة للحفاظ على التراث الثقافي من ترميم وإجراء مشاريع صغيرة. ما نطلبه من الدول المانحة خاصة في فلسطين، هناك دول مانحة ترغب بدعم الحكومة في هذا المجال، ودول مانحة أخرى لا تتعامل مع الحكومة وتتعامل مع القطاع الخاص. في كلا الحالتين الموضوع يصب في حماية التراث، لكن مطلوب أن يكون ذلك ضمن خطة وطنية شاملة، أن يكون عمل مكمل لبعضه حتى نتمكن ونحصل على مخرجات إيجابية في الحفاظ على التراث الثقافي. الأمور العاجلة في مجال المشاريع، إعداد سجل وطني شامل وكامل عصري يتمكن من الحفاظ على التراث الثقافي، خاصة أننا بحاجة إلى إدراج المباني التاريخية بشكل عاجل، ومشاريع تخلق حالة من الوعي لدى المجتمع المحلي الفلسطيني بأهمية التراث الثقافي كالمتاحف، حيث لم يكن هناك وجود لأي متحف فلسطيني طوال فترة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. الآن يوجد حوالي من 33 إلى 35 متحف منتشرة في مناطق فلسطين، ولكنها متاحف صغيرة، بما في ذلك بعض المتاحف في المدارس. الأمر الذي يخلق حالة من التوعية لدى المجتمع المحلي بأهمية التراث الثقافي وضرورة الحفاظ عليه.
My colleague answer about this question. We have the same situation. I think what we need, we don't need more excavation. I think we need just excavation for emergency case, nothing else. And because we have a lot of sites excavated without any maintenance, without backfilled. Yeah. We need to training the people to have skills how to use technology for communication, sharing work, for documentation, and also we need to train people in the field to use them in the future when the project of any mission finish. We need these skills after the project finish, because sometimes the sites need to some of conservation or preservation. Yeah, and we need from donors to study the project before to be the project corresponds with the community and officially with the government, with both, corresponds with both. And I think this is important, and we need to deal that in through the policy, yeah, through planning. It's not for a short plan. We need a long plan for future, for the kids, yeah, to face this challenge. That's it.
Same question?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Well, based on what I have said regarding risks and what kind of risks that we are facing in the region, and based on the fact that we need to address different audiences, I think one can think about three types of perhaps strategic directions that we could think about, especially in working with donors and in developing our programs. And in one is related to the fact, because of these risks that I've just mentioned earlier, I think we need to think about risk reduction, how we could reduce these risks by activities related to, as I mentioned, some of the risks are related to lack of documentation, so we need to do that. We need to train people, as we mentioned at the opening, how they could deal in times of crisis with situations like of conflict, for example, in Aleppo, how they stabilize. Bruno was actually talking about simple stabilization measures, how we could really keep some structures in place. I mean, I'm just giving you some examples. So I think risk reduction, under this category of risk reduction, we have many types of actions that we can do, but also risk management in general, how we could plan also for recovery in the case of places that were looted or were destroyed, how we could develop, you know, recovery projects, I think, to bring people. I use the word recovery because I like it more than reconstruction, because recovery means also involving the people. So we are recovering places for people. And by reconstructing, for example, places like Aleppo, Bruno, the images you showed were really amazing. So I think one can think about this as a category. The other aspect, which is related more to generally to development, is how we can sustain heritage in economic and social development. How we could, and therefore contribute to the sustainable development goals in reality, especially when it comes to cities. How we could do different types of actions that would lead us in that directions. So we could think about aspects related, I mean, the issue of economy, for example, the economic benefit for people. We could think about approaches that we have developed in more recent years, like what we call the people-centered approach, or the heritage economy or conservation economy, different types of different meanings. How we could balance, you know, the needs of economy to the needs of protecting heritage. And in general, how we could manage any change in a historic area or in any historic property. So this is a second category maybe we can use related to how we integrate cultural heritage and sustainable development. The last one is more related to education and I think practice, because, you know, especially we as ICRAM, we were created to develop the best practice, is the how that we do. I mean, UNESCO does the conventions, ICOMOS does the principles, but we do the how to do it on the ground in practice. And this is why we, in fact, wanted to encourage this through an award that we have launched recently to encourage best practices, or good practices, I should say, because maybe there is no best, good practices in conservation. So we want to encourage people to do good practice. How to do this practice? Through improvement of knowledge. How we improve the knowledge? Through education. How we can sustain the education? Through programs like the one that we are now developing with the University of Sharjah, and I can see in front of me Professor Adesan. And when we thought about higher education, we did not think about it just because we want just to do another degree program. I think what is needed is to have these professional skills recognized as well. So we need to have them capable, serious education, not simple training. We need to make sure, in fact, even with the training that we have been doing, we were doing like training workshops, but also we were very keen to understand the impact of this training and also the follow-up. And that's why we even provided some grants. If you remember, I showed some of the slides with Prince Klaus, how the participants can go back to their home country and they can implement the knowledge that they have acquired. So I think under these three categories, I think we could work with those who's interested in improving the situation in the region.
Thank you, Zeki, and thank you all. That was some very good perspectives and ideas coming on, we had hoped to open it up to questions from the audience, but unfortunately we've run out of time. And we are, before we move into our concluding comments on the conference, I did just want to thank all of the panelists for joining me up on stage today and providing both a national context and perspective as well as a regional one. So thank you all very much. I learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience did as well. So thank you.
Yes, Zaki, if you don't mind staying, yes, and the rest of the panelists as well. I just have a few concluding remarks about the conference and a few words of thanks. I know one of our key partners, director of Arjamil, Antonia Carver, has to leave soon, so I'll give you the floor just 1 minute. But I would like just to start by saying that it's really been a great pleasure to organize this conference here this year. At ICRAM Athar. The support here has been fantastic, really, on all sides. We were all, I think, not only us as the organizers, but also the audience, we were all greatly honored that His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, member of the Supreme Council and ruler of Sharjah, attended the opening day of the conference and also spoke, in fact, at the opening day and showed his interest for the themes of the conference. It's also, of course, a great pleasure to thank, and I think I should start with thanking all of our partners and organizers and co-organizers here. Ikram Athar, Arjamil, Global Heritage Fund, and also our sponsors, so Abu Dhabi's Department of Culture and Tourism, Barkat Trust, and Bonsai Agency. I would also like to thank all of the organizing committee and staff who worked so hard over the last few days, but also in the last few weeks and months in making this happen. So from the Yamina side, my colleagues Michael Fradley, some of them are at the back, some of them are at the front. Michael Fradley, Julia Nicolaus, Bijan Rohani, and Letiten Harko. From Ikram Athar's, our host, Zaki Aslan, is here, and his team, Ahmed, Anwar, Fatma, Maher, Shireen, and Timoko. From Arjamil, George Richards, who had to leave yesterday night, but I'm sure he's here with us, maybe looking at the live stream. And also, of course, director of Arjamil, Antonia Cava, who hosted us yesterday for a wonderful dinner at Arjamil. And from Global Heritage Fund, Stefan Potman, who's chairing this session here, Nada Hosking, and Elliot Olson. I would also like to thank the translators who did an amazing job. Really. And the video crew as well, who did an equally amazing job. So thank you as well. I'm going to give the floor now to Antonia, and then I'll come back with some more remarks about the conference in general and what hopefully we've achieved over these last few days, and also what we plan to achieve for the years to come of Protecting the Past. But Antonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry to rush, but I'll hand back to you very soon. And I'm representing George today, who's obviously been much more involved and present than me, but thank you so much. We just wanted to say thank you to all our partners, and that we're delighted to take part here for the first time together with all the other organizations, and to hear from and work with so many diverse institutions and practitioners over the last few days. It's always said that for any great conference, the coffee break is as important as the presentations, and it's been fantastic to see so many conversations going on today, and I'm sure the other days as well, and see everybody connecting, and to really have this meeting point between institutions and major organizations, many of whom are located in Europe and America, with so many grassroots organizations here in the region. I think that's maybe something that really distinguishes this get-together compared to many others, and makes it extra meaningful. We heard today in more detail about Art Jamil's projects in Saudi and Iraq, and together with our collaborators, with Factum and Otto and Adam are here, and also with the Royal Commission of Al-Ula, and with other partners on the ground, and also our work with the V&A, Yadza, and Forensic Architecture. And thank you, Chris, for presenting on that. And George, of course, yesterday discussed, or the day before, our work in Egypt as well. So we just wanted to thank everybody for hearing us out on that, and here's to many more collaborations. As I said, many of the conversations have steered towards that, and that's exactly the way we'd really like to work. Our role is as a regional implementing agency, building capacity with local communities in key heritage skills, including digital documentation, but not limited to that. And I think this focus on what used to be called new technologies, now a part of everyday life, I guess, but kind of really thinking through the digital, why we're embracing these technologies, who owns them, what we actually do with them, who uses them after the documentation has been made, and to what purpose, and this kind of idea of kind of future-proofing technologies, what's going to happen to all these maps that we're producing and all these kind of documentations going forward, and how do we make sure that they're always being put to use in the way that we want them to, is obviously has come up a lot today, and I'm sure on other days too, and is perhaps a conversation to be had going forward. As I mentioned, this relationship between grassroots organizations and international is something that we're completely invested in that we collaborate with both. So for that, I'd just like to hand it back and say thank you so much again, and what a success this has been. Dr. Zaki, thank you for everything, and to all our other partners, thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonia. Now, back to the rest of the remarks. which I promise will be short. We just wanted to, as organizers, reflect over the points that we touched upon, and also over the various themes that were discussed during this conference. In general, I think we can say that throughout the conference, through the 3 days of the conference, there has been a clearly broad awareness about the existence of a cultural heritage in crisis, threatened by a range of factors, human-induced, and here I'm not talking just about conflict, I'm also talking about all of the other factors connected to population growth, so agriculture, urbanism, and so forth, climate change, natural factors also, which are part of the wider challenges that face the 21st century. Heritage is part of our past and future, but is also part, crucially, of our present. And it is now that we need to work towards sustainable solutions, as Bob Bewley emphasizes in the opening speech on the first day. We need to place heritage in the context of contemporary concerns. In the age of digital documentation and communication, a number of ethical questions were raised by the participants. Is it right to document heritage in wartime? Who's benefiting from exhibiting war damage to cultural heritage? Is documentation replacing the authenticity of cultural property? And who's the documentation for? It should, no doubt, be for the benefit of the community, and community-driven documentation was a key point raised by Dr. Weber and Doro, ICROM's general director, in his keynote speech on the first day. As a conference which has digital documentation at its core, we are unsurprisingly treated to a swath of presentations showcasing cutting-edge technology for documenting endangered heritage in the region. Remote sensing, for example, is now very well embedded in several projects active in the MENA region. Yamina trainees from various countries showed the capability of this technique in assessing risks and threats to cultural heritage. However, the challenge of maintaining such digital data in the region, including the costs and local capabilities, should be taken into account and planned for. This is something that came up time and again during the debates at these sessions that we've had. Automatic damage detection of the kind shown by Manuel Field's presentation can help in monitoring the state of conservation of heritage sites in the region. Similarly, the use of mobile and cost-effective technology for assessing risks and threats was demonstrated by AML as a project, by the IDEA collector kit, which we heard about this morning, and other projects presented throughout the conference. Econem's regional work, and also Salima Naji's and David Guri's project in Morocco, have shown how drones and 3D modeling are producing ever more accurate data sets that can be helpful for both monitoring and also post-war and post-disaster recovery and reconstruction of heritage. One of the critical points that was raised in connection with new technologies for digital documentation was that pertaining to compatibility of platforms and data sets, open access, open source technology, and so forth. There is a broad concern that interoperability tools should be created to ensure that disparate data sets, disparate platforms, can be seamlessly integrated. Some organizations have already started partnerships aimed at interoperability. An example for it is HerBridge, which was presented by Surush Kanlu yesterday. The web app developed jointly by Yamina and GHF to integrate data collected by AML with the Yamina database. One of the most interesting sessions of this conference was no doubt the roundtable on the donor's perspective, which included representatives from ALIF, Arcadia, the Cultural Protection Fund, and the Department of Culture and Tourism of Abu Dhabi. One of the crucial questions that came out of that session was how to empower local universities and NGOs to attract major cultural heritage funding, which is currently being mostly awarded or invested in directly in Western organizations who then deploy their projects and know-how in the MENA region. The panelists suggested that their current major stumbling block for local organizations is at the grant writing stage and the point of writing applications, and that capacity building in this area must be boosted. A first step in this direction was announced yesterday. Nada Hosking announcing the GHF Kaplan Award for Yamina trainees, but also the granting schemes that Dr. Zaki talked about just a few moments ago that ICROM has developed to inject funds directly in the region and directly going to local heritage stakeholders. Now, moving forward, it's been 4 years since we started Protecting the Past. This conference is increasingly becoming, and it's a pleasure for me to see it as having started it in 2015, it's being established as a forum for academics and heritage professionals to discuss heritage documentation and protection in the MENA region. And we're getting growing calls to turn it into a platform to engage not only with regional, but also with the global heritage community. If this is to happen, we need to grow this forum, make it even more engaging in the future with new challenging topics and new participants. Now, to address this challenge, we intend to open up Protecting the Past in 2019, having to have a broader community of experts. We will have open call for papers for the next Protecting the Past. So far, we've been going via invitation-only sessions, which make it easier in a way for organizers because we can do it in a shorter amount of time. But it's only fair that we try and diversify this forum even more, especially if we want to grow it globally. So we'll have open call for papers for 2019 to attract speakers from the MENA region, but also, we hope, from outside the MENA region, at least to a certain extent, to provide a more global perspective. On the sidelines of this conference, we were also approached, we as organizers, and the discussion brought up the need to engage more firmly with the private sector, particularly thinking of urban planners, with a view to creating a connection between the private sector and academics and heritage professionals for better safeguarding heritage against the growing urbanization, for example. Much as engaging donors was one of the major takeaways for us in 2017 in Tunis, and we brought it back here in 2019 by doing a session on it, which I believe was very successful. We all believe it was very successful. We think this is a major takeaway for 2019 to bring back in 2019, and more details on this, more details on the call for papers, more details on the conference in 2019. I'm sure you're all dying to know where it's going to happen. We will not announce it today, but we are aiming to announce it by February 2019. I think that's a fair assessment. You will find more information on the conference website and, of course, on the partners' media as these information become available. And I think this is it for me, and I'll give the word to Zaki.
Well, I don't know where to start, but I just wanted to perhaps start it where His Highness ended the first opening, and I think with his inspiring remarks, when he was giving a message actually to someone's house that was destroyed in Ramallah, and was saying like, you are not alone. And now he feels he's not alone. And now we feel we are not alone. So I think I want to quote perhaps John Lennon, who said, a dream you dream alone is only a dream. And a dream we dream together is a reality. And I think us together being here, working in the field, on the ground, and people who have been, leading in several organizations, donors who have come with us, and practitioners who have been facing issues on the ground, I want to say that we are together, and we are hopefully can reach a goal together if we can be together. And I think if anything, this conference has achieved is to bring all these experts, significant audience, and significant participants who have contributed with valued papers and presentations and improving, our knowledge. In fact, each one of us has a certain knowledge. Now, by sharing this knowledge, we have become more knowledgeable, if you want, of the situation and how we can move forward. So I think this is really a very important step in what we have been trying to do here as a center for ICROM, or an office, a regional office of ICROM, serving this particular region with all the risks that I have highlighted and all the actions that we aim to achieve with partners, and we were very lucky to work with such partners. I think having EMENA project, which is a very important project, I believe, for this particular region, and having Bob, Bijan, Andrea moving this forward, I think that was really a great thing. And also having the Global Heritage Fund with us to move this forward together with Jamil. Unfortunately, Antonia left. But I think with George, who have now established their new center, and we had the pleasure to be together yesterday at this new entity in this part of the world, we believe that we could work together much more, and we could find ways to collaborate. And again, what I have tried to promote, like international cooperation, how important it is to move forward. So I want to thank every partner, every speaker, and every participant who actually provided an extraordinary knowledge to what we have. And I think because we want to keep that knowledge not lost, I think I wanted to say that we want to make sure that we document what happened during these 3 days. And I was suggesting with our partners, with Bijan, Andrea, and Bob, that we want to publish at least summaries of these papers. And I hope you all agree with that, because I think we should not lose this opportunity. And we very much hope that we collaborate to have you know, these summaries, which could be like 2 pages. I don't know how many words we said, Bob? 2 pages. 2 pages with a few pictures, just not to burden you, because I know writing papers of 8 pages, or I don't know how many words, 10,000 words, it's going to be really an impossible mission. So if you all agree, we will be very happy to publish this from here, and we contribute to that. We could have it online, and we could have it also printed if needed. And I think we agreed on end of February to have all these contributions, if you can, and those who don't send us by end of February, well, tampi, we cannot we cannot really have them in the publication. But I really want to urge you, because this was a really, I hope that you share that with me. I think this was a successful event. So if we want to make it really successful, we need just to work together and have it documented. Because we talk about documentation, we cannot defeat the cause. Anyway, thanks again for everybody, and thanks for your time and your you know, burden to come here, you know, from different parts of the world. It's long distances and it's sometimes tiring. And thank you for being with us, and we were really, really pleased to have you here at ICROM Sharjah. Thank you very much.
I just, in conclusion, wanted to add a few words onto that, not to run the risk of repeating everybody else, but first of all, Global Heritage Fund is incredibly grateful to the partners in this conference, ICROM Attar for hosting us here in this great facility, and the EMENA team who did really a wonderful job of putting this all together. We're very grateful as well to the sponsors that also contributed, Bonsai, who did a lot of the branding and the marketing, as well as Abu Dhabi Culture and Tourism Authority, our partner that we've recently brought into the fold, and of course Art Jamil as well. Thank you again. I know you're not here anymore, but for your input in providing a slightly different perspective, and for hosting us at your wonderful new facility. Global Heritage Fund has now been involved in the Protecting the Past conference for 2 years. We came to be involved really through our collaboration with EMENA, and of course dialogues with ICROM Attar and ICROM more broadly around our Amal and Heritage tool. We are, of course, very excited to be participating both at the documentation technological level with Amal and with, as has been highlighted, significant compatibility with other tools, including EA-MENA, and of course, as well in the project level, as you heard from our support of the Granaries project in Morocco. So we see ourselves involved on a number of levels, and of course, discussion around making this more open into more of a global perspective really resonates with Global Heritage Fund, because while we do, of course, appreciate the significance and the importance of the work in this region, our work is really global. And while we're headquartered in the US with offices in the UK, our work is really not in Europe or the US, it's in the rest of the world. And so we feel that we can contribute significantly on that level, both contributing expertise as well as knowledge. And so, you know, but the real thanks, of course, goes to all of you, all of the people that participated in this event. And you can bring as many partners together and as much money, but if you don't have quality input from people who are practitioners and experts in the field, you are the ones that are fighting the fight, and so and doing the great work. So we applaud you. This is for you, and again, I want to echo my colleagues' sentiments for all of your contributions and your well-thought papers. So thank you again in conclusion, and Bob, do you want to say anything?
It was really just to say thank you to Zaki, but you said it in terms of being hosted in this wonderful facility. And no, it was great. And we can't say where next year would be, but if it was here, it would be fine. But it won't be here, will it, Zaki? You're very welcome. Yeah, you see, I knew we would be. But I do want to just thank those people who were organisers, and they've already given their thanks, because I'll never forget the day when Andrea said, how about we have a Protecting the Past conference? And already then in his mind, it wasn't just a one-off, it was a series. And it has grown from being a very small idea to what is, I think, becoming a regular online, sorry, not online, network, but could also become an online community as well. Didier nobbled me, as Didier always nobbles everybody, about the idea of a network. But we have a network through Protecting the Past. And you probably get some idea of just how much work goes on, but I know exactly how much work goes on and how many midnight phone calls and Skypes there are, and even trying to get Bijan at the weekend, he says, no, I'm Skyping with so-and-so in Jordan, which is probably Andrea. So the team are really good, thank you very much, but it's really just to say thank you to everybody. Thank you. And now it's coffee.
You have to provide all the visas.